I understand that at some point you developed some serious concerns about some of what was going on in the public school system, which you felt was potentially harmful to kids, as I understand some of your history here. Do you want to go into that? Tell us, give us the experience of you and your family in connection with your observations of what was happening in the public schools.
Yes, absolutely. So my concerns started in January 2022. There was a teacher, Carolyn Brajowski, who did testify over here. She had a presentation to the school board, and she brought up the issue that the books are not age appropriate in the schools, and she gave a couple examples. And she was not allowed to finish her presentation, and she got ejected from the board meeting. And there's some ongoing lawsuits as well of defamation. And that was the first incident where I was wondering what the school board is up to as well. And
did you just read about that in the paper, or were you at that meeting where she got shut down?
No, actually I saw a post on social media, on Instagram, about the school board addressing this issue, that they've taken the video down. And naturally I had to see what they took down. So I ended up finding the video.
Okay. And I know you've got a PowerPoint, and I don't want to jump too far ahead or make it in any way less coherent. But let me ask you this: before you saw Carolyn's little dust up with the school board and the fact that they were defaming her, and we heard a lot about that from her, had you any sort of insights into what was going on in the schools and any concern about the materials that the kids were exposed to?
Well, my girls were really young then, so there wasn't too many red flags. I will say the fact that COVID happened and there was a lot of homeschool as well, that really helped cover up a lot of the issues that were going on in the school board, because the kids were home and they were pushing online schooling, which didn't work out too well. But before that, one of my girls ended up bringing a book about transgenderism at home. It was called I Am Jazz, just talking about, a boy that's transitioning to a girl, and just the life of that, and kind of normalizing that behavior. And I just thought that it was a little bit odd that one of my girls, who was very young then, possibly like 6 or 7, brought that home from her library.
So that's 4 or 5 years ago that happened, I guess.
That's correct.
And so. And I don't, again, you may have covered this in your PowerPoint, so I don't want to jump ahead but I'll finish with this and then I'll get you to go into the PowerPoint. But when your 6 or 7-year-old brings you home that book, provoked some thinking on your part, like, what are these kids doing at school with this sort of stuff? I'm assuming that was your general thinking. Did you do anything at that point? Did you contact the teacher or anybody else to find out what's going on?
Well, I didn't. This was the first incident, and usually when something happens for the first time, you don't really think about it too much. So I didn't really pay too much attention. I just thought it was kind of an odd book to bring home. I was sure maybe she didn't know what she's bringing home, or what they have in the school. Okay. So it didn't really give me a really big flag, especially since it was the first incident. But it did sit in the back of my mind, and that's when my skepticism for the board grew.
And then, so when you saw Carolyn Bukowski in the news getting hammered by the school board, you kind of related what you had seen from your own daughter with what she was up against. Am I right to make that assumption?
That's right. Not only that, but I just found it extremely disturbing with how the school board was dealing with information that, in my opinion, I think they should have been very happy to receive. The fact that Carolyn was bringing this information to light, I think the school board should have been thankful, and they should have been looking into the books and addressing what they have as well. But instead, they took the opposite approach, and they doubled down. They ended up ejecting her from the meeting. And, in my opinion, if she's over there putting her time together to make a presentation, if anybody's doing that, the least that they can do is hear out the person,
right,
and maybe take some notes. And like I said, in this case, I think Carolyn did them a favor. Unfortunately, they didn't view it that way.
No. Okay. Well, look, David, why don't we start with your PowerPoint now, and then we'll move through it. I may interrupt at times with a few questions, but I think we should probably get going with it right now. If we have it set up.
Yes, I'd love to. Thank you so much for having me here. It's a pleasure. And I put together a PowerPoint. Like I said, I'm a parent, so you're going to see a lot of boots on the ground. I'm going to show you evidence of what I'm seeing in the school board and what approaches they have done. I also have a personal experience, so this is all coming from my personal experience as well. So today I'm talking about the indoctrination, sexualization, anti-parent school policies, and how they target minors. All this information that I'm presenting, like I said, I want to give you their words. I want to show you how they're doing it. According to the Canadian Centre for Child Protection, non-contact sexual abuse includes exposing a child to sexually explicit material and asking sexually intrusive questions or making a sexually explicit comment to a child. And signs of sexually abused children include advanced sexual knowledge beyond their level of development, sexualized behavior inconsistent with behavior of children the same age, withdrawn, depressed, decline in school performance, aggressive, self-destructive, and many more. So the school board, I would say the school teachers use the Canadian Centre for Child Protection. I've emailed them and they sent me the document, so this is where I'm getting the information. So yes, I will be using the Waterloo District School Board as an example. However, you can apply this to all the school boards under the Ministry of Education, and you can look into it yourself. A lot of these documents, they're very similar as well. A lot of these organizations that I'll be talking about, you can find maybe the exact same organizations or very similar ones across Ontario. I will be sticking to Ontario, and I'm going to be using the Waterloo District School Board, like I said, because I am a parent over there. All right, indoctrination. This is right from the Waterloo District School Board's Instagram account. As you can see, they have a lot of celebrations. On October 11, 2023, the Waterloo District School Board put up a post openly admitting to targeting minors, stating, "You will begin to see posts speaking directly to students and a shift away from posts that focus on information speaking to parents, caregivers, and community members." And this was followed by a National Coming Out Day post. So like I said, they are targeting minors. The Waterloo District School Board sets aside the following days to celebrate. I'm not going to name them all, but International Transgender Day of Visibility, International Asexual Visibility Day, Non-Binary Parents Day, Lesbian Day of Visibility, International Day Against Homophobia, Transphobia and Biphobia, Gender Equality Week, Bisexual Visibility Day, International Lesbian Day, Transparent Day, and many more, including 2 months of sexual identity celebrations, which is Pride Month in June and the 2S LGBTQ History Month in October.
And you're saying this is all on the Waterloo School Board district website? That's where you're getting this?
That's correct. Yes,
Okay.
you can find all of this information right on their Instagram account.
Instagram account. Okay.
Yeah, that's where I pulled all these images.
Okay.
So the school board, I calculated, they spend about roughly 30% of the school days celebrating sexual preferences, empowerment, and sexual identities with minors. This is not considering the days where special clubs, classroom, school activities encourage sexual celebrations with special guests or organizations that are invited to speak. And these organizations, I'll get later on into it, there are medical organizations and they also sell gender affirming gear as well. I'll show you the price list for that. These medical organizations go perform anything from therapy to phalloplasty, mastectomy, vaginoplasty, hysterectomy, etc. If you have a look at these photos that I did pull from Waterloo District School Board's Instagram, there's a bunch of activists that are allies, they call them, that come into the school. They like to bring attention. They also brought a drag queen as well. If you want to have a look on the on the right-hand side, the students are constantly doing pride theme artwork and events as well. And my girls were part of a club as well, the Arts and Crafts Club. And when I asked them what they were doing, they said they were doing the pride flag. So they have different clubs, they have different names as well, but they're constantly focusing on pride events. That picture over there on the right in the middle, school leadership with a big Progress pride flag. And below is the ex-director, Jiwan Chanika, with an activist and a student. What they do is they use the students to push the pride. And when parents criticize them, they say, hey, this is not nice, you're being hateful, and they hide behind the students. More indoctrination. This is a document that the teachers are being shown where they can be trained to use non-gendered language. So I don't know if you can read this, but I'm just going to show you something. Instead of boys have penises and girls have vaginas, they urge the teachers to say, some boys have penises, some don't. Many girls have vaginas, some don't. Or, instead of saying you were born a girl, he was born a boy, say instead, when you were born, we guessed you were a girl. You get to decide if it's true. This document is called Loaded Language, Changing How We Talk About Gender. Here's a recent post right from the Waterloo District School Board's Instagram account. Some of the school trustees and leadership and the director over there, the current director, they say, since 2016, Waterloo District School Board has proudly raised the pride flag at every building across our school board. In other words, they've been celebrating sexual identities and genders with students aged 4 to 17. Sexualization. So on October 30th, 2023, the Waterloo District School Board trustees voted to allow minors to access explicit sexual content that glorifies sexual behavior and aims to normalize medical interventions in the minds of children. They hide adult content in children's books. I'm going to show you an example. There's a lot to talk about over here, but I only have time for one example today. So these, the school books that the schools choose, they're called supplemental material. These books are not therapy books, they're not medical books, they're not self-help books. You know, books usually fall in one of two categories, educational or entertainment. And when they say that these school books are child appropriate or age appropriate, I want you to pay attention to the kid-friendly, cute words that they use as they describe sexual instructions. Up on the screen I have handies. That sounds cute. Perhaps the most important skill you will master as a gay or bi man is the timeless hand job. The good news is that you can practice on yourself. The bad news is each guy becomes very used to his own way of getting himself off. Learning how to find a partner's personal style can take ages, but it can be very rewarding when you do.
David, where did you get that book and that excerpt from?
This book is part of the Waterloo District School Board in their library. When I looked for this book to see, they also had this book on display in the library, and I believe, if I recall off the top of my head, this book was also available as an electronic PDF available to all the students.
And the library where this book was, what school was that? Was it sort of K to 7, or was it high school? Like what?
So this book in particular is in a high school.
Okay.
However, I do believe that all the kids under 18 are minors as well.
Right.
Okay. A lot of these books, this is just one of the books as well that I'm using as an example.
Right.
Just to kind of show you the content that is in these books.
Okay.
So another thing from this book, finally, my misunderstanding about rubbing two peens together wasn't far off the mark. Rubbing them together in one hand feels awesome. So, you know, this is the kind of books that the school board approves. You know, there's a lot of different books that can be in the school. There are thousands of different books, but they choose to have these ones. A little bit more. Blowies, oral sex is popping another dude's peen into your mouth, or indeed popping yours in his. Bumming, is the universal truth that many men like sticking their willies inside things. I suspect it must be biological. Here's some more stuff. Biological differences between gay and straight. Gay men have slightly longer and thicker winkies. Excellent. The amygdala of gay men is more responsive to porn than those of straight men. So we have bigger dicks and we're hornier. Just saying. Below over there in purple highlighted, instructions on how you can basically adopt a sexual identity. Step number 3, you can act on them and adopt an identity to define yourself. This is a little bit where you get the membership card and become part of a community. Here's some more information, some sex app tips. This book also gives information on how to approach people online for sexual things. It says include a picture of yourself. It also says that if you're on Grindr under the age of 18, it happens, as this book acknowledges that they are dealing with minors. Be aware that swapping adult pics is actually illegal. You're distributing child pornography, even if it's yourself. However, if you're that horny that you want to do a sex meet, you need to meet the trick in public for a drink first. That way you can assess if you fancy them in the flesh.
And this book, you're saying, wasn't in some deep dark corner in some box in a storage room. This was on display in the library that you went to?
This book, you can view the books that are on display just by logging in. They have an online library that you can check out the books. They have a lot of audio books as well. They have PDF books, or not PDF, electronic books, and they also have physical copy books. And when you go online, you can actually see the different books that are on display at the different schools.
Okay, and you've given us this one book as an example of the kind of content that's in the public school libraries, and I take it you saw a whole bunch of other books of this nature as well?
That's correct. Yeah, this is just a part of just an example. And I'm trying to stress the point that the schools themselves, they're the ones that choose and approve this material. Right. This is supplemental material, so they deem this book that it's okay to have in the school board, the quality of this books and the content.
Right.
All right, here's another little thing right from the Waterloo District School Board's website regarding Pride Month. Each of our secondary schools and more than 15 elementary schools have a gay-straight alliance. These clubs are safe spaces for our students, staff, and allies where they come together to discuss issues that may be facing or the topics that matter to them. In other words, elementary schools have students aged 4 to 12, and it seems like adults are encouraging conversations around sexual attractions and preferences. When I was talking about what kind of got me into this, right after I watched Carolyn Brzezinski's presentation, later on that year, they did a survey called Have Your Say Survey, part of their strategic planning process where they plan on what direction they should take in the upcoming year. And they say, you know, it's important for them to know the identity so that way it could set the direction in that course. And they were targeting staff, community partners, but also students in grade 4 to 12 for this survey. So what they actually did in the survey is they had students age 4 to 13. And the questions included was, what is your gender identity and what is your sexual orientation? I don't really know why they really want to know the sexual orientation of 4 to 13-year-olds, but that is one of the questions, and I was not happy about that. I'll get into that a little bit later.
Just so I understand, these are questions being directed at the kids or at the parents of kids of that age?
So the survey was voluntary, and we encouraged the following people to take part: parents, guardians of students from kindergarten to grade 12, staff, students in grade 4 to 12, and community partners.
So they're asking parents of a 4-year-old, what that child's sexual identity or orientation is. They're not asking the kid themselves directly, but they're asking a parent to
No.
assume.
If you have a look over there, people who fill out the survey, they need to identify how old they are.
Oh,
And
so-
one of the criterias is 4 to 13-year-olds.
So it's a survey for everyone, including 4-year-olds.
That's correct.
I see. Okay. But how did this survey get distributed? How do we know, for instance, would a 4-year-old ever see it and actually have to answer these questions, or would it go out as emails to parents? How does the survey get sent out by the school board?
So I don't know the exact logistics of how they distributed the surveys. I think they just sent it via email, and they also had direct online links right off their social media. I will say, however, asking an inappropriate question, asking a child, what is your sexual orientation, and then later saying, well, you don't have to answer that, doesn't make the question appropriate.
No.
Another survey that they've done, it seems like they were data mining students to determine family stability. This was the Safe, Caring, and Inclusive School Survey. They basically want to know intimate life details, how they feel about themselves, if they were born in Canada, what is their gender identity, what is their relationship to their family members, who lives in their household, etc. So they use these surveys so they can justify the different policies and procedures and programs and activities and everything that they do. Because that way they can say, we have these students and this is the need that we need to meet. So I'm going to talk about the anti-parent policies, procedures, and the behaviors. I talked about Carolyn Brzezinski and what she did at the school board. I delegated for the first time at the Waterloo District School Board on January 2023. And my underpinning question after going through these surveys was, who's interested in the sexuality of my daughters? And my delegation ended up going viral. It was even shown on Fox News. And this prompted the school board to release an open letter as a response. This open letter was not signed as well. And I encourage everybody to read this open letter for themselves, because you get to see exactly how they justify the things that they do. I also talked about sexual books in this. So they say many of these arguments are veiled attempts to target 2S LGBTQIA children and families. They align with wider attempts over the past year that target public education and need to address achievement and well-being gaps that exist among Indigenous, Black, racialized students, those with special education identifications, and those coming out of poverty. Our belief is that any child in the Waterloo District School Board belongs here. We believe in the human rights of all students, staff, and families, etc., etc. In other words, when I asked to know who's interested in the sexuality of my kids, they gave me their justified sob story in an open letter. Here's the ex-director, Jiwan Chanaka, in a self-congratulatory moment. He posted, education research is clear. Students cannot achieve if they do not feel safe. Regarding the letter, it was viewed more than 500,000 times within 3 days with overwhelming messages of support. So that was his inspirational leadership moment. I do encourage everybody to read that letter so they can see how they justify their position regarding sexually explicit books, sexual material, and public statements to curb criticism from parents.
So I was going to say, this letter imputes bigotry and even racism to you. By analogy, the letter says targeting members of the LGBTQ community by expressing concern about the contents
Yes,
of the book.
The letter also goes into all the different phobias that I am, or that, I guess they didn't name me, but yeah, transphobia, bigotry, biphobia, all of the phobias. But it doesn't really matter. At the end of the day, you just got to read this, and because they provide a lot of information with how they justify their behavior.
So they're simply maintaining the same kind of smear campaign directed at you as others who were questioning the content of these books. And as the post indicated, this widespread the scope of publication, I mean, it was read by, I don't know, 500,000 people or something you were saying,
Yes.
over 3 days with overwhelming support. So the idea that a parent who came forward to express concerns was going to face this kind of vilification is the response that you're now telling us about, and that similar to what we've heard from other witnesses.
Exactly. Yes. They come down on dissent, on criticism, with everything that they got.
Right.
If you've been looking at the news recently, this was published June 4th, 2025. Exclusive: school board trained staff that the term family is harmful and racist. Yes, the Waterloo District School Board, there's a bunch of slides. Staff were being trained that the word family is a harmful concept rooted in white supremacy. You can't make this up. It's been going viral and international. The Waterloo District School Board, among with pretty much every other school board in Ontario and possibly Canada, have different procedures and policies. This is Administrative Procedure 1235, accommodations of trans or persons who identify as transgender. So there's policies and procedures. Procedures are derived from policies. You don't get public input for procedures, but they will hold public input for policies. And then procedures are the letter of the law. This is what must be followed. Okay? So I just highlighted a few things. A student's self-identification is the sole measure of their gender. A school should not disclose a student's gender status to the student's parents or guardians without the student's explicit prior consent. Doing so can put a student's well-being and safety at risk. Students have the right to a safe change room that corresponds to their gender identity. So the school is basically driving a wedge between parents and students for the child's well-being in this. In other words, if a boy identifies as a girl on that particular day, they can enter their washrooms and change rooms and participate in their activities.
I noticed just on the general debate about the washrooms and the self-identity and the lack of privacy for people in some respects, that the need to feel safe evidently only applies to those who have chosen to identify opposite to their natural state. The need to feel safe on behalf of the girls, for instance, who have to now change in the presence of boys, isn't taken into account. And even if one expresses an unease with that, as the girl in that instance, they would be targeted with the same kinds of vilification that you and others suffer. In other words, safety is an on-off switch applied selectively depending on who's claiming it.
Exactly. And they also have an obsession with consent that seems to go out the door. I mean, the irony is so palpable, you can almost taste it in all of this. Mm-hmm. Here's the ex-director, Jiwan Chanika, in regards to the LGBTQ community. On January 30th, he said, "I've shared information talking about the high rates of depression and suicide among some community groups," referring to the LGBTQ students. So if there's a group of students who's seriously suicidal, why not get in contact with the parents? And why do high-risk, at-risk suicidal student groups continue to grow under their leadership? They amended their bylaws as well. As of June 2024, if you have a look, their social media comments are basically disabled, limited, removed. Their YouTube video history removed. The elected trustees block the public on social media. The public gallery is limited to 30 people in a room with a capacity of 300. Their bylaws were changed to have delegations halved to 5 minutes. Delegations have to be submitted and pre-approved by them before people can speak. And they cannot repeat a topic more than once a year. That means that ongoing issues, it doesn't really matter. They can only speak one time. They had a public overflow room, which was removed and turned into storage. And of course, if they don't like and something goes viral, they release unsigned public open letters. All right, targeting minors for medical intervention. So the schools promote and facilitate the transition of children ranging from socially transitioning at schools to working with activist medical organizations promoting medical intervention. This is right off the Waterloo District School Board site. EGAL Canada, which was an intervener in Carolyn Brzezinski's case, as well, is over there. These are some of the different organizations that they work with. Gender Creative Kids, if you have a look at their description, safe exploration of gender for children, enabling trans and non-binary youth to express their identities in authentic ways. Gender Spectrum targets gender diverse children and teens. GLSEN targets LGBTQ inclusive K to 12 kids. That's 4 years old. LGBT Youth Line affirms and supports experiences of youth 29 and under, 29 to 0. Spectrum as well focuses on affirming SLGBTQ individuals in the Waterloo region, including minors. And OK2B Me, I'm going to be using them as an example of one of these organizations. OK2B Me works very closely with the Waterloo District School Board. They have resources for students in the GSA, that's the Gay Straight Alliance Club. This is one of their resources that they give, is this poster that promotes the importance and the use of pronouns targeting minors. They also have different programs like this one, Youth Exploring Transition for the age of 13 to 18. Self-admittedly, they say that their program is not psychotherapy and doesn't treat mental issues. Here's OK2B Me counseling in the schools. They had a pilot program. They did in-school counseling as well at the Waterloo District School Board. This is a leaflet that they give kids so they can get more information on how to access gender-affirming care. That's gender-affirming care that can lead to sterilization, alteration, and removal of genitals as well. That's what they mean by gender-affirming care. So the top half informs that family doctors can provide hormone replacement therapy and gender affirmation therapy. No requirement for mental health services to get this. The middle portion instructs how to coax doctors into complying with your requests by having recording conversations and having an advocate with you. And the bottom section, some helpful links if you're thinking about transitioning. Like I said, this leaflet is for kids who want to get more information. So let's have a look at the helpful links right from their information package. Trans-related surgery. A qualified healthcare provider can be physician, nurse practitioner, registered nurse, psychologist, registered nurse, registered social worker with a master's degree. So this is who they consider as qualified to get upper surgery, which is removing or altering your breasts. You need one supporting assessment from a qualified physician or a nurse practitioner. And if you want to remove or alter your genitals, you need 2 supporting assessments. The bar is extremely low to get this surgery. Here's more information. One of the links leads you to guidelines for gender-affirming primary care with trans and non-binary patients. Gives you information on feminizing hormone therapy, formulations, recommended dosages as well. I have a couple binders over here. There's a lot of information. I'm just scraping the surface, showing you one page out of hundreds of pages. Here's the different timelines for effects of medication and expected time for feminizing hormones and hormone monitoring for trans femme patients. More information as well on the masculinization process. Here's another document, Gender Affirming Primary Care. States there's no specific age determining when an individual is eligible to provide consent for medical interventions in Canada. Basically, pretty much anybody can provide consent. Keep in mind that mental assessment is not required. Here's more information about the formulations and recommended testosterone for masculizing hormone therapy. They also have a bunch of documents that you can request special medications and whatnot, such as this one. They make it really easy. You can just print it off and give it to your doctor to sign, and make sure to record that conversation and bring somebody with you in case they don't really want to. All right, here's a sample request for an unlisted drug product, testosterone. This one was a really big document, standards of care for health or transgender and diverse people. Basically states how adolescents should be informed about the potential loss of fertility. So yes, they do admit that these processes will likely result in medical sterilization. Here's another activist organization that came at the Waterloo District School Board called the Get Real Movement. That's their price list for all the different gender-affirming gear that they sell. Gaffs, binders, packers, $76 only. Breast forms, trans tape, STPs, stand to pee. That's a device that kind of looks like a dildo that you can put, and you can pretend that you're a boy when you're at a urinal and just pee through it. I'll just read their description. Being able to stand while urinating can relieve feelings of dysphoria in day-to-day life. But when you're born with different plumbing, it can be a little difficult to achieve. STPs are meant to ease urinating while standing, whether in the comfort of your home or out in public restrooms. Yeah. Apparently these products will also reduce stress that can cause you to commit suicide. Here's the Children's Hospital of Eastern Ontario with their Gender Diversity Clinic. We accept referrals from school guidance counselors and teachers. Community partners. Are these organizations considered a community partner, or these allies and activists that come in? Who knows? But they do accept referrals directly from these people about referrals regarding the kids. We have a lot of local qualified healthcare providers waiting to help with gender-affirming care. If you look at the yellow underline, TransFem helps youth aged 5 to 12. 5 to 12. All right, so who are the enablers in all of this? Of course, the school boards promote this stuff. The Ministry of Education is probably the biggest enabler. They're the ones that fund the school boards as well. And, they do know that all of this is going on. According to them, they are meeting their policies as well. So there's nothing to see here. The teacher unions, as you know, are really on board with this. Human Rights Commission, political parties, activist organizations, city councilors, and many more. Thank you very much.
That's very, very interesting. I'm going to now turn you over to the commissioners, who will have a few questions for you.
Hi. A couple of slides ago, there were accepting referrals from about anyone, but the parents were not listed.
Yeah, they don't need to be listed. They can accept referrals from those people, including the family doctor or pediatrician as well. A constant theme in all of this is that parents need not be involved.
Yeah. And I'd like to know how your girls are dealing with all of this.
The school board knows me. I've developed a reputation a little bit. My girls are treated very nicely in school as well. I haven't had any problems, but I'm always on the lookout. And I don't think the teachers themselves might want to do anything, because it's just more evidence that I get to speak on in terms of this.
Okay, so is the fact that you're an activist on this issue is preventing your daughter's class to be exposed to this material?
I think it's being minimized. I do talk to the schools if they have anybody. I ask them, are you having anybody drop by the school that I should know about as well? And a lot of the teachers, they don't actually want to be doing this stuff, so they'll keep it down to a minimum as well. I found, maybe I was just lucky, but that was the case with me as well in schools. The girls seem to have been shielded from this. I talk to them at home as well. And the fact that I'm advocating for their safety, I think it's a position that is probably very reasonable for all parents to adopt. If all the parents adopted the position that I was in, the position that I took, I think all of this would be ending extremely quick. The problem is that parents do not adopt this position or know about it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So I'm just going to summarize what I see as an issue here from what you've presented, which I think was very concise. If you can just let me know if I missed something. So my interpretation of what you're saying, the effects on the children and the family in general, is to weaken, destroy, demoralize, subvert, corrupt, confuse, control, dominate, and destabilize. Did I miss anything?
That's a pretty good list.
Okay, and my second part is on the issue of diversity and inclusivity. Would you say that your ability to communicate with the board or have a difference of opinion was your position on this, considered it being diverse or inclusive, accepted?
No, like I said, everything is very ironic. Diversity, equity, and inclusion only goes one way. There's no diversity of opinions. There's no inclusion of other opinions. There's no tolerance for any of this, for any dissenting voices. The best the board can do is just, the best the board has done is just to double down on what they've been doing as well. And I think at this point, it's come to a point where, every time they do it, they kind of get in the news as well, which is what's causing all the backlash as well. And it's why they've been removing the video history, and it's why they've been disabling the comments as well. It's because the public is starting to be aware of what's happening. And right now they've just basically shut themselves in alone at these board meetings while the fight goes on as well. And honestly, they're just kind of becoming irrelevant in this topic because they're showing the inability to adapt.
Or is it pointless for people like you and other parents that have similar normal points of view to stand for the school board?
To stand for the school board in alignment with what they do?
No, it's to stand for them in elections. The school board's elected, right?
Yes.
Then why aren't normal people standing up and standing for election to the school board?
From my understanding, a lot of the school board trustees are getting pushed by the unions as well. I think they do this kind of an indirect way, from my understanding, because they're not allowed to outright promote somebody. We had two trustees, for example, at our school board that decided, one of them died and the other one decided they didn't want to be a trustee anymore. So instead of the school board having elections and letting the next runner-up perhaps, or electing somebody else new, the school board trustees decided that they will be selecting the trustees that best fit their ideology. So it was an entire meeting with different people applying, and at the end of the day, they got two ideologically aligned trustees as well, just to keep the gong show going.
But when the school board elections come round, there's nothing to stop anybody standing, is there?
There's nothing to stop anybody from it except for the media and the activists and the constant things in the news that demonize parents as well. Like there was a parental march as well for kids in schools, Million March for Kids as well. And the opposition to that, just to give you an idea of what's been stopping. The opposition for that was created by the teachers union, and the opposition, I would say, matched the amount of parents that came out there. So the teacher union is not to be not respected in the amount of power that they hold to this, because when it comes to electing people, they do have a lot of say in who gets there.
And just on that point, the low voter turnout for municipal politics, including school boards, is a real problem, because it lends itself to the manipulation by public sector unions who propose a slate and then who can use their resources to mobilize the election of slates to school boards across the country. And it's all because of a low voter turnout. Would you agree with me that if we can encourage more parents to actually get out and vote and get their neighbors out and voting, they can get the kinds of school board trustees that end what you call the gong show?
Yeah, like I said, everybody needs to participate in their own rescue in this. Everybody needs to adopt a position. The school board is there to serve us as well, and we are the people that fund it. And I would say that is partly true. The unions, I believe it's the teachers unions, they also have different rules. This was in the news a few years ago that they passed a rule in which the minority of the people get 50% of the say. That means that if they have, let's say, 2% of the union is what they consider minority, and people vote on different policies, that 2% has 50% of the say.
Right.
To respect equitable outcomes. Okay, so they do have a lot of stuff like that that keep the current situation in place.
Right. Okay. Well, I think we have reached the end of our allotted time for your evidence, and on behalf of the NCI, let me thank you very much, both for your passion for the issues that you're fighting for in the community and for your evidence here today. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I appreciate for having me.